walked into a courtroom where a court-appointed attorney told me, "You've never really done anything wrong or been charged or something, so you're going to get a slap on your hand." And that didn't happen. The judge said, "I have a plea agreement in front of me before I sentence you. Did you sign this?" And he said, "So a whole semi truck full of beer, you moved it by yourself?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to give you another chance. Who helped you?" And I said, "I did it all by myself." He said, "You've now violated the plea agreement because you're not cooperating with the court. So I sentence you to 5 years to the federal penitentiary, 2 to serve, 3 to suspended. 3 suspended. Get his ass out of here."
Welcome to episode 33 of the How Do You Know That podcast with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig Jackman along with Matthew Hollis, and we want to welcome you to our show.
So my whole point is I was telling Kyle, my son, I said, "Do you believe that everything that someone thinks or believes or does basically comes from their experiences through life?" And I said, "You need to understand this one thing about your father. I've never gone into this in detail." I said, "But, I walked into a courtroom where a court-appointed attorney told me, 'You've never really done anything wrong or been charged or something, so you're going to get a slap on your hand.' And that didn't happen. So the judge said, 'I have a plea agreement in front of me before I sentence you. Did you sign this?' And I said, 'Yes, I did.' And he goes, 'Great. So you fully cooperate with the court for this plea agreement to go into action?' I said, 'Yes, sir.' And he goes, 'I'm going to ask you, who helped you move all those cases of beer?' And I said, 'I did it all by myself.' And he said, 'So a whole semi truck full of beer, you moved it by yourself?' And I said, 'Yes, sir.' And he goes, 'I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to give you another chance. Who helped you?' And I said, 'I did it all by myself.' He said, 'You've now violated the plea agreement because you're not cooperating with the court. So I sentence you to 5 years to the federal penitentiary, 2 to serve, 3 to suspended. 3 suspended. Get his ass out of here.' And I'm 18 years old, and they put me in handcuffs, take me out to a sheriff's car, and on my way to Bismarck, a federal penitentiary. So if that's not enough, now when I get there, they give me a pair of orange coveralls, and that's it. I don't have any shoes, socks, no underwear. I put on these orange coveralls, and then they put me in a jail cell all by myself. And no one talks to me. No one says anything. No one does anything. And so I'm sitting there. I got there late at night, and I'm sitting there, and so I didn't sleep at all. I'm thinking someone's going to come through the cell door at any moment. And then the morning gets up, and they yell, "Breakfast." And you hear all this fucking clanking in these bars, moving these cells, right? The deals, unlocking the cells. And I hear everyone talking. And everyone's talking, and then it gets silent, and I can't hear anything. They don't open my cell. No one tells me what's going on. Then they bring me a plate of food, and then a guard walks by, and then lunch, and then the guard walks by, and then supper, and then they shut the lights out. And I hear people coming and going, and the only thoughts that I had in my mind were, I don't know what the fuck I did wrong, but I guess I get to spend 2 years in this fucking cell. And they don't tell you anything for 2 weeks because you're on suicide watch, but no one tells you. And they don't bring me any clean overhauls. There's no sheets. There's no pillowcase. The pillow's plastic. The small bed is plastic. And I just went, wow, apparently I really did some fucking shit wrong to the wrong people. And that was my reality. So I tell Kyle, when they finally come to my cell and bring a guy, and they said, we're going to take you to get you like clothes and a towel and some fucking soap. You know what I mean? It was like, how can I look at that day as one of the best days of my fucking life? They fucking let me out of that cell. And I go, so you just got to understand your dad's going to have that perception when I'm talking to people, and they can say, well, you don't understand how hard it is. And in my mind, I'm going like, fucking really? Really?
Yeah.
So that perception gives me that thought where what's the worst thing that can happen to us? What I just explained to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that ain't gonna fucking happen. that ain't gonna happen, because the way they treated me in prison, they found out later, was inhumane.
Right.
And now when a brand new person comes into the penitentiary, they have orientation. And they tell you what's going to happen in your first days at a penitentiary. It's like, so I'm not patting on myself on the back of saying,
no, I don't think that is patting yourself on the
No,
back.
not
It's
at
just,
all.
yeah,
It
but
makes, yeah.
it gave me a reference. So when people say things are hard, and I don't know if you guys heard that thing with, so when people tell me things are hard, I'm listening, but I have something I can compare hard to. And this sort of motivated me from, watching Chris and Alex, because the guy's going, what's really hard? You know what I mean? We see this all the time. It's like, well, that's sort of difficult and that's sort of hard. And it's like, one guy came to Alex and in that podcast and said, I'm done. I'm if I have to do 3 videos a week, I'll do 3 videos a week every week for as long as it takes. And Alex said, 3? And he goes, what are you talking about? And he says, we post 300 pieces of content a week. And the guy went, okay, I got to figure out how to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now,
he's
of
not
course,
like, oh, I quit. I'm done after that.
The quiet quitting.
yeah. And the other thing that they talked about that just really snapped me is again, both of them believe that now is an easier time than ever in history to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because the bar for the standard is just so fucking low.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the midst of AI and internet and all this stuff, this technology that's available, I mean, the bar is set really fucking low.
Well, the thing is too, is like, as you have, like you said, your experience, you look at things in a different light, and just like you shared with them, so do they. Like, I feel like one of the big things that changed for me in the last year was every time I start to get like more stressed, what I just tell myself is, well, you have big fucking dreams, and this is the easiest it's ever going to be. So if you can't do it now, then why do it? Right? Because that's the truth. Sometimes I just think to myself, I'm like, you have such big dreams of things you want to accomplish in your life. It's not going to get easier for you.
No.
You're going to be
And if
juggling
you want to
more
move
balls.
forward, you got to step out of that box
Yeah.
that you're confining yourself to because it feels so comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to accept in a way that, just like you've said, Dad, that you're a miracle and you're special in some way to do this. Because And I've shared this before, but it's like certain things like narcissism have been portrayed completely in a only negative light, kind of like psychopathy,
Right.
where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, a psychopath is someone that's a murderer, right? No, actually, a lot of doctors and lawyers are psychopaths. They lack the emotional range, but at the same time, they're there helping people, saving people's lives. But when someone dies on the table and they were unable to help them, they just go, okay, we'll save the
Yeah.
next one, right? And that's the way
And
that
how
they
a
feel in
lawyer
comparison.
and how a lawyer can take a pro bono case of someone's DNA that was at the scene where they cut up a person. It's like you sit down and you go, here's all the evidence against this guy.
We had you on videotape walking
Yeah.
in and out of the building
Yeah,
with the body
it's like,
bags.
you know, this guy that killed those college kids in Idaho. You know what I mean? And it's like he left a nice chef cover,
A sheath. Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
did
it
he?
had his DNA on it. And
But
yeah.
yeah,
And so who's the person that wants to make a name for themselves by defending this dude? There's got to be a little bit of narcissist stuff going on there. And it's like, listen, I don't care if he gets, you know,
Mhm.
convicted and gets in a firing squad. I got on TV.
Okay.
it's
But even then, like in a sense, what you've been saying is the narcissism is what also helps us in what we desire, what we want, and helps us to move forward. Now, I agree. There's two
Right.
sides to that coin.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in a sense, you have to have a little bit of that narcissism in order to say, I've had enough.
Right.
I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to pick my ass up and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to see
Yeah.
what it is that, okay, for example, in this case, Robert, you, because of your success, what you've been able to do and put together, or whatever industry you happen to be in, whether
Yeah.
it is okay in acting, you know, look at an actor, look at their trajectory to become an actor, look at a singer. What was their trajectory? Look at Taylor Swift. What was her trajectory to become who she is? What is the foundation of her? What is it that makes her so unique? So now you incorporate that. That is, in a sense, your narcissism.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Taylor Swift and you're flying all over the world performing and stuff, there's a certain aspect, of course, to the art part of it. But I believe anyone that gets as big as she is has to believe that they're capable of doing things that a normal human being can't. And isn't that certain forms of narcissism anyway? And it doesn't have to be all of, see, I think real narcissism is I'm great at everything, right? Like I'm the best thing to ever happen.
Right.
And that
Well, that's if
can
we're
get
taking it to the
toxic.
extreme, of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it can grow to that too. You know, there's that fine line that you skirt if you're leading anyone or leading anything and being like, I know what I'm doing. And then you walk back and you have that imposter syndrome moment where you're like, do I fucking know what I'm doing? What? But I can't let them know that, right? I can't
Right.
let them know that that's the way that it is, because I have to show up. And, you know, imagine if you're president, imagine if you're like Barack Obama or one of these leaders, right? Where I recently heard Michelle Obama say, and I've never thought about this before, but she was doing an interview with Jay Shetty, right? And she said, one of the weird things about having the president as your husband is she's like, I have to sit there in bed at night where we're both laying there, where he gets the call and then puts it down and his whole mood shifts.
Mhm.
And I know this man. He's my husband. I know he just heard some shit that's not good. But I have to be good enough to go, I don't want to hear about it, because I know for a fact that that shit is not, that he's the man that's capable of handling that stuff. And that
Right.
is not every man. That is not every woman that's capable of hearing that stuff and being able to do something about it or move it around or figure it out. Right.
Mhm.
You know? And so I think in certain aspects, certain people are a right fit for
Yeah.
that.
There's this line that I heard one time, you know, which is too much is given, much is required. And again, I know that a lot of people run by their own Yeah, their own laws, their own code. You know what I mean? It's like you got to establish your own code, your beliefs, what's important, what's not important. And I keep finding myself leaning back to some of the most hopeless times of my life and just really going, okay, where do I go from here? And it's again me instantly reaching out to someone that inspires me. And when that person inspires me, I go, why not me? And I feel like I got this really unique thing that maybe I need to talk more about, which is when I met any of my mentors, when I met, Roger Penske, I never had a thought this guy's a billionaire and he's the most winning car owner in the world. I can beat him. I don't have that. I just look at him and go, man, I can learn a lot of shit from this dude.
That honestly has been
Oh,
a
yeah.
shift that I've made. Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's like-
absolutely.
So the narcissism that I think would be in my head is if this guy can do this, then I feel like I can figure out the best things, learn from other people's mistakes, constantly ask for help. And I just realized, like we were talking about, where this bar is so low that I was sharing that with Kyle as well. I said, you keep telling me the sacrifices that these people that made all this money, what they did on, streaming. I said, you keep telling me they're 16-hour days and that, they find wacko mates that, take their stuff. And one person did suicide and, all of this stuff. I'm talking about, what about all the people that live stream or do YouTube that have enough subscribers that they're speaking to, that they're helping on their path, leading by example, and the amount of paid members they have is exactly what they need for an income to do what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's people that I follow that I've watched explode in certain niches, right? Because like I'm into VR, right? So I've watched people create whole YouTube channels for VR and grow in a year and a half to 300,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And the people that, it's so interesting because even before we started recording this, it's like we were kind of talking about whether you see it as a job or whether you see it, it's always going to be a job, but whether you see it as a job or not, or you're doing it as a hobby. This dude that I'm talking about, who he won awards and stuff even for it, absolutely did not see this ever as being a job. It was only a hobby. And now it's his full-time job, right?
Yeah.
But I think that when you're talking about Kyle or you're talking about those other streamers, I think every single one of them that he would probably name started it out as a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them started it out going, I'm going to grind for 16 hours. They grind for 16 hours because they love it. They don't know what else
they had
to
that
do,
passion.
right?
They had that desire, that love of wanting to do it, which Robert, you have. And
yeah, I mean,
that's the beauty of something
Do
like
I
this.
really?
Yeah. Well, it's like we're all sitting here.
If people can't tell that you don't have a passion for this, then something's wrong.
It's like again, why, there's a story that I constantly get around people, for a lack of better words. I love telling this story of an intervention, right? Am I saying it correctly?
Innovation?
No, it's where a group of people get together to try to get you committed to a
intervention.
There we go. And I've had these moments in my life where I tell them all the time. It's like we went home, Terry and I, and I can remember sitting around the family, and all of a sudden, we're all sitting in a room, and all of a sudden I just realized that everybody started coming in. It was weird, and I'm not paying attention. And then all of a sudden, the elected leader of the family, this is back in North Dakota, they're going, hey, Bobby, we just wanted to talk to you about some serious stuff. And I said, awesome. What do you need to know? And they just felt that the mentor that I was leaning on in that time, it's like, listen, we heard that you went to a seminar and training over Thanksgiving. And we heard that you went to a training and seminar over Easter. And I found out later when I asked my mentor, why did he do events during those times? And he says, everyone gets it off and no one, that the hotels are empty. He goes, the prices that you can get on a convention on Thanksgiving. What was another one? Super Bowl Sunday.
That's
We would
right.
always have a convention on Super Bowl Sunday. So we'd get there on Friday, and then Saturday it was really good. What did we do on Sunday? Had a small meeting at the beginning, and he put the Super Bowl on a big screen, projection system, had
Mhm.
popcorn makers come in. Everybody went and got their pillows and their blankets from their hotel room, and we're all sitting in a giant room all watching the Super Bowl together. The guy got a little smarter than the average bear, you know what I mean? And so my family was looking at me and going, we're pretty much sure that you're in a cult. We're worried, really worried. You're traveling all over and you're buying expensive cars. You're always in a different city, and you're just I know you're making good money, but I know that you're giving it all back to him for training. And so they felt like I was living beyond my means. See, and I was sitting there and I was just going like, are you fucking kidding me? Was really the honest thing. And I was like, I was like, how can I nicely get this to a place, right? And so I just said, man, I just really appreciate you guys all thinking about me and looking after my well-being. And I said, but like I do, I don't know why I do this, but I noticed that entrepreneurs do this to help them move forward. Is you reduce it to the worst thing that could possibly happen. Just like we did probably before we recorded. It's like
Right.
you go, okay, so what's the worst thing that could happen? And I said, well, listen, I said, let's talk about it. The company that I'm with goes out of business. I can't take the skills that I learned from this guy and apply it anywhere else. So now, right now, my income would stop. So then I would have to give the leased cars back. And then I'd have to get rid of the home. And then I would have to get an apartment. And then I would have to get a job. And then I would just have to work and save up money until I could afford a used car that I could afford. And they all looked at me and went, yeah, yeah. And I said, so the worst thing that could happen to me is I end up being you guys.
I mean, that's the interesting thing is that like in any of those situations, like there's a large amount of people right now that are like, I luckily am around a bunch of people that are pretty supportive of artificial intelligence, but the fields at which I've always had interest in are like appalled that it even exists. And
Mhm.
so it's like there's this group, filmmaking group, Discord type thing that I've been part of for like years, where I like talk to people about movies and stuff. So I just like engaging with other people when a new film comes out and I've seen it and stuff, and a little more than just YouTube comments or something, right? So I've watched them go, oh, okay, so we're just gonna boycott. No one's gonna watch movies with artificial intelligence in them, right? And then it's like, well, how do you really tell which ones are and aren't? And for a while in the video game sector, they were like, we're not selling any video games that have artificial intelligence in them. Like Valve said this for Steam. It's like the biggest retailer for video games on computers and shit in general. And then they flip that policy and say, okay, maybe we will allow games with AI. There is a game right now that came out last week that's already sold 3 million copies that was made by 5 guys. And it uses artificial intelligence for its art. It's the most played game right now on Steam, beating games that have never been dethroned as like the most played games. And it's like a Pokemon like game, right? So it's something it's in a genre of stuff that people always wanted. And yet, because it never existed, because Nintendo never wanted to make it, someone just ripped it off and made it with their own creatures or whatever the hell. And now everyone's playing it. So now it's like, well, when's Nintendo going to cease and desist them or this or that? And it's like, dude, if they used AI to make the art, they're just going to change it so that never happens.
Right.
Like that, it's so interesting because
after all the legal, because
we
now
were talking about the
now
group
they
of
have enough
people, right?
subscribers. Now they have enough subscribers where they got money, so now they
Yeah,
can
a
get
lot of money.
lawyers to tie this up as long as they can, like the deal with the Apple
the
Watch.
Apple Watch.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Well,
you
it's-
tie it up in courts until the other company, you know, goes, we got to find a way to make this.
well, I was gonna
okay,
say,
you know?
Nintendo fits in the same category as Disney with their litigation stuff. They are like very litigious, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I was branching that off of what you said when you went to your family and stuff. There's whole certain aspects where you have to look at the future of who you are, what you want to do with your life,
Right,
and take a step away
Mhm.
from what might be comfortable, what might be normal, and go, is this the right decision for me? Right? Because
Right.
if you would have bounced out at that time, we probably wouldn't be recording this podcast.
right.
Right? If you would have
Exactly.
listened to them, I'd probably be living in North Dakota or something, right?
There,
Or maybe not
during-
even exist.
during this stage, you were just a twinkle.
Right, it was Stardust still.
Yeah, this is prior to 92.
So that's the case though, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like, man, you can see in hindsight those decisions, and you can see in hindsight where people are like, the internet's not going to do this, or this is not going to do that. I feel like even with the community that we built here on YouTube, we had kind of a wake up call like last week going, okay, are we on the right tracks? And this is what we talked about, is like, are we on the right track? Should we be doing this a different way to reach more people? Because what we want to do is share with more people and build a larger community of people that need this information and also want to share information themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you would have showed up to your family and instead of them doing what most people do, which I'm sure even people in our community have experienced, which is going, you know, I think that this might be there's something weird about this. Instead of doing the flip side, which is, what the hell are you doing that makes you so happy and excited and pursuing these things?
Yeah.
Like, that's the real question to ask, right? Is it's like,
And you
man,
have to
whatever
keep
you're-
asking that question too. That's the kicker. Because, okay, where were we 1 year ago? Where were we 3 years ago? Where were we 5 years ago to where
even
we are
remember.
today?
Wow.
And exactly, because the only way
A
that
year
we can
ago, I was going, I'm getting no freaking results from Facebook Lives.
Exactly. And so what happened?
I did YouTube Lives.
All right.
Okay, and so
added
we've
the
gone
podcast, added the visionaries. We all put that together, put together the inner circle. And so, it's again, I told Craig in a message on Telegram, we got a Telegram of the visionaries, and I just appreciate Craig and Matt, you guys both so much. And I just said to him, I said, you know, I am aware. I am aware that I'm weird. I'm still very aware that I'm weird. And so, you know, for me, I always grew up around things that, you know, at the end of the season, they actually call it silly season in racing. And silly season is just like we are in NFL football. So they'll understand this better. If you didn't make the playoffs, there's a good chance your ass is fired. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and then the assistant coaches of the teams that made the playoffs, the assistants now are being looked at as maybe head coaches for the teams that suck.
which we're seeing in the NFL
Okay.
right now.
So NASCAR, because you don't understand it, is just like that. Oh my God, they got rid of their head coach. All of a sudden, you know, when did we ever think that, for those of you that don't know NFL, just stay with us for a second. But there was a guy named Bill Belichick, whether you like him or not, or know who he is or not. But the guy's already going to go down in history as a coach that's won more Super Bowls than any coach living alive. And right now he's looking for a job. Well,
I actually,
why? Well, why?
yeah,
Because he's the same coach, but he's got different players, and they didn't make it to the playoffs.
Mhm.
Oh, wait a minute. They didn't make it to the playoffs last year. So I want you to sort of think of yourself as an owner of the Patriots. And you're going, wow, our stadiums used to be full. And we not only win number 1 seed, but we used to have 3 playoff games that happened on our stadium. What's the revenue that brings it in? How much are the businesses making revenue from the, teams that didn't hit that have to go all the way to New England for the game? And it's a financial decision for him.
yeah,
It's
Mhm.
not a feeling for him.
When you're that
You
high
know?
up and that successful,
Yeah.
exactly.
right,
And so NASCAR is really wild at going, no one likes those cars. So because of those cars, they don't look like the ones that people drive. So we're changing the chassis, we're changing the body style, and we're also changing the motor. They get this information at the end of last season. So think about your 5 cars with 300 employees all going back going, oh my God, but we love that car. We love that chassis.
right,
We
right.
we know how to build this motor. No, these are the new specs, build a new frame. Here's the new body, put the new body on. Oh, engine department, here's the new engine you're building. And it's like, show up, and they're constantly trying to make it equal for all of the drivers,
Hmm.
right? And so
Mhm.
for me, I've always been around things where to win, you have to change. No, to win, if you don't change, you don't get to participate.
I mean, that's a lot of things,
Imagine,
right?
imagine,
Exactly.
imagine
Yeah.
how easy you would be used to changing. Where if they say, I just need you to know, you show up with this car next year, you don't get to drive. You don't get the race. What? Yeah, read the rule book. We changed everything. And
Mhm.
see,
Right.
is there a complaining time? Oh, yeah. Is there a pissed off time? Oh, yeah. But when the season opens, I'm having a fucking car there. So
Right.
when you get done whining and complaining and talking about how you don't understand this car or understand this chassis, maybe that would help people understand, if they ever like car racing, why it's so much fun to watch. Because you know how hard the Formula One or IMSA or NASCAR or NHRA, how they do their very, very best to make sure that it all comes down to the drivers and the people that set up the cars. So it's not like what you think in a normal situation where I pay $10,000 for an engine, you can't afford one, so I kick your ass.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's not the way it works.
Right.
So me, I love adapting to change, and all I need to do to change is I just need to focus on someone new that inspires me,
Yeah.
what they're doing, and then I get to take it to the next level. And so a lot of people would go, "Oh my God, I can't imagine making 100,000 a year. Well, I can't imagine making 1 million a year." And now I'm being inspired people that are making tens of millions of dollars a year.
Well, like when you're
Right.
talking about change too, Dad, like with the NASCAR stuff, have either one of you guys heard of Terrence Riley? He's a business person. Have you guys heard of Stanley Cups? Probably.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
100-year-old thermos.
Yes. So if you,
Right.
the thermos company, if you looked up Stanley Cup sales they've been around since 1913. If you
Yeah.
look at those sales and their sales over the last couple of years, and then the year that they hired Terrence Riley as the president, their sales went from, I have a picture here. Their sales went from a measly 180 million to 690 million in 2 years because Terrence Riley joined. Do you want to guess where Terrence Riley worked before talking about Bill Belichick looking for a job, where he worked before Stanley Cups and why they're everywhere now. Crocs.
Crocs.
Doesn't it make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? But you see
I
that
love
because
it.
imagine you're a company that's doing almost $200 million a year in sales. You've been around since 1913. The company's doing fucking great by everyone else's metrics.
Yeah.
And you go, we should really poach this guy. He's looking for a new job from Crocs. They bring him in and quadruple the company in 2 years. This, I can't imagine what the numbers will be like from this year, because they'll probably be over $1 billion.
Yeah,
But
I didn't hear about
Everybody's
this
even
craze.
talking about them. Yeah.
I didn't hear about this craze until it was on the news, because people were standing in line for him. I think,
and he created that.
what wasn't it? I think it was in the top 5 of the most desired Christmas presents.
Yep. And it's a cup. And if you go to school and you don't have one of these cups, you get bullied nowadays. So you have to
The tennis shoe industry.
right.
Look at all of that. I mean, if you watch the movie
Do you have
Air
to have
and
a Stanley Cup with Crocs on? Or
yes, well, Crocs are popular too, right? So he took this shoe specifically that used to be popular, was already popular, and then in 7 years with social media, right? That's the part that this dude gets that most people don't. If you read here, his bio, it says Crocs executive Terrence Riley left the shoe company and became the president of Stanley, where he soon led into social media and influencer marketing to boost the new sales of the line, which became the best-selling bottle the same year. So the dude legit showed up, and within 1 year of being there in 2020, already had tripled their sales. And this just goes to show that without Terrence Riley, I don't think Stanley would have all of a sudden started making $600-800 million. It took someone brand new with a new vision of what they could be. And if you look too, he had them invent 2 cups that Stanley did not have before. One, mom has the popular thirst one, right? With the plastic on it. And it's interesting because when I heard about this in like the business circles that I'm in, I watched a video where someone was talking about this. When I heard about this, it's like it all clicks, right? So Crocs is an older company. Then you bring in that new blood, and he revolutionizes it to the point that Crocs is $1 billion company now. I see celebrities with their own style of Crocs, like Post Malone and all these other people. You can't go out in Southern California, walk around without seeing someone wearing Crocs, right? Because they're just that popular. Yes. And to think we were all making fun of Crocs like a decade ago. We're like, who is wearing these shoes? And now it's like, oh, they're comfortable. Everybody loves them. And now it's like a fashion statement. Now they've gotten to the point, right, where people are replicating them in their own shoes. So then you have like knockoff versions from Adidas or from these other shoe brands, because they're going just like White Claw did with like the hard seltzer market, right? It's like, okay, White Claw shows up, does so well that now every single soda brand has their offshoot seltzer. You can get Mike's Hard Seltzer lemonade now. You can do all these things. And it's like, because you have to move and you have to change, like you said, Dad, and you have to go down that path. Right. Or else you just don't get to play the game anymore. Blockbuster, for example. You just don't get to play the game.
Or Kodak with,
that is the key right there is, I've never played the game, but there is a game called Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The board game.
And instead of talking about the board game, we just, that's what it is, right? So I'm sitting there going, there's people that are relevant, and then there's people that are not relevant. Like, it's like, wasn't there a show out there, Craig? Because you and I are a little older, where it's Where Are They Now?
Yes.
They would try to go, okay, so where are these one-hit wonders? You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, and they give you the whole history of where they were and what they did.
The VH1 stuff. Is it like VH1,
actually? I think it was Arts and
Now,
Entertainment Channel, A&E.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I always loved is not the stories about them now living in a trailer house and was homeless and on drugs. It was the ones where, my goal was to be a rock and roll singer.
Mm-hmm.
and we did an album. One of them went #1, and we toured for 5 years. And I put so much money in the bank that I wanted to do something different. And then you find out that they're totally in something else that has nothing to do with music, but they're winning that game too.
Yeah.
And people are going like, I had no clue that they're the ones that built the Dickie brand for clothes.
Mhm.
You know, when did Dickie clothes become cool?
Well, that's the thing. Like these people, they move in and they bring that new energy, right? Because a lot of those places, like they became one-hit wonders because at that time they were able to, and certain artists can do this for decades or their whole lives, but get the pulse of where everybody is and predict, like Steve Jobs used to say, predict what people want, even though they don't know it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's where we need to be. This is the beat.
Yeah.
This is the song of the summer. I know this is where they need to be, and then it becomes that. But they don't have the passion to like go off and do that. They just bring it to another area, right? So it's like you have Dr. Dre, who revolutionized hip hop music, right? In a lot of ways, like made it popular. No,
Right.
I
You
don't
can
think
go
anyone would
back to the
disagree.
Beatles too, because
And
the
then
Beatles had their format, and then all of a sudden, okay, in the mid 60s, you saw the Beatles pivot because they'd already done everything that was done at that time down in the basement at the tavern room or whatever it was. And then they started experimenting with the new technologies, with
and
the new
drugs, lots of
and
drugs. Yeah.
drugs. Okay, yes. But okay, now you get an album of Magical Mystery Tour, of Sergeant
Right.
Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, that has expanded the universe in the sense of how they not only recorded, but what they recorded and what they shared. And then you keep moving into the, Magical Mystery Tour and Let It Be, Come Together, Abbey Road, all of these albums that are, if you look at them, and I think there's a reason why there's the red album and the blue album when it comes to their greatest hits albums in the beginning after the white album. Now there's the #1 album, but still the red album is the early Beatles. The blue album is the later Beatles. And there is a difference if you really listen. You want that old poppy stuff like, Help, I Need Somebody, or All I Need, and then you get into All You Need Is Love, Come Together. Yeah, what they did, and in the sense, I was going to bring up Abraham Hicks too, but first the Beatles, they pivoted. They found out that they had done what they needed to do. They reached their goal. So now, how do they become relevant in the new, in what is taking place at that
And
time?
even creating the new, like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And creative hit.
I think that's called evolution.
And exactly. Abraham Hicks even talks about that with, what is the thing that you want to do? You want to reach this plateau. So you enjoy the journey. What happens when you reach that
Pursuit.
plateau? I got it. Okay, I did it. Now what do I do next? Well, okay, like you said earlier, Robert, going from the 1,000 to the 100,000 to the 1 million. So I've achieved my 1,000 goal. Now I want to go to that 100,000 goal. So now here comes the pivot. Here's what I need to do to move to the next level. And you enjoy that journey, because once you reach that top level, what's next? I've done that. If I may share one more story, Sir Laurence Olivier, he did a show where it was a stage production. Now this is what I heard. Okay, I can't verify it
How do you
straight
know
away.
that?
Yeah, how do you know that? Right. But what happened was he did this incredible stage performance. So what everybody was saying, oh my God, perfect. That's exactly it. He goes backstage after the show and he's away from people and he is grousing. And people came up and said, "Oh my God, sir, you did an incredible job. That was the best performance." And he goes, "I know. Now, how can I repeat that? How can I continue to do that?" And unless he had something else to come up to challenge him to move forward
Yeah.
and then carry on that journey. That would he have stopped right there? No, he
Mhm.
didn't.
Right.
But he understood where he was. And now that he reached that plateau, it's like, okay, I got it. What can I do next?
Yeah, I mean there's that constant, like when you have it, like sometimes people will say boredom is just as much as a signal as depression or these other areas, and your mind being bored is more of like a reaction to it not having anything to stimulate it. And see, like a
Mhm.
lot of people now have these phones and all these other things to stimulate that part of your brain, so much so that then all other things that take more time to accomplish are not stimulating enough, and they need to
Right.
like rethink those processes to get people involved in them again. Like school is having a huge problem with this now, because the outcome for a test or the outcome for learning something is so exponentially long in comparison to what kids are used to as far
Right.
as getting that reward, you know, doing something and getting a reward for it. And we're all just animals in that way. So you have certain people like Craig, you're saying, Sir Laurence Olivier, where it's, and I've seen a lot of actors, a lot of businessmen that are of that mindset, that are very aware that they go, yep, I've hit that peak. I'm ready to go climb another mountain. You know, like that
Yeah.
one saying, right?
Mhm. Look at all the actors that have reinvented
Mm.
themselves because they've reached that plateau.
Right.
Or let's even take it beyond the actors. What you just described with Crocs, and once you reach that plateau, and how many people live from that plateau, and that's all they did.
Yeah.
They didn't move forward. They didn't move on. They didn't challenge
literally-
themselves to the next
They're still
level.
playing clubs, playing the same songs that they played back in the day.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that there's nothing wrong with that, because nostalgia is a very powerful drug, right?
Exactly.
But
Yes.
at the same time, the people that we normally like admire and like chisel their name into stone are the people that are constantly looking for the next step in innovation for what they're doing. They're constantly pushing themselves to do something different. I
Right.
admire artists like the Beatles and stuff, because in those types of situations, I would love to emulate them and be like them. Because imagine you get to the peak of what you are not just capable, the peak of what you're capable of as far as fans, awareness, all these things. And in that position, pivoting and going, I'm going to do something that's going to alienate all those people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, we've talked about this, right? Because it's like,
Right.
okay, you build this fan group and you go, okay, I want that to grow. So I have to be more like myself. I tend to cuss a lot, right? That's going to
Yeah.
alienate some people. Some people just are anti-profanity. They hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to, it's fine, but these are the people that watch like NBC instead of HBO, right? Sitcoms.
Mhm.
And that's fine. But at the same time,
before 9 o'clock, right, or something like that. I forget.
yeah.
9:00.
Yeah,
Well,
I
actually
stream
10:00,
everything,
I think is
so.
what it used to be. 10:00, because at right about 10:50, then all of a sudden things started to happen.
Yeah.
Especially on NYPD Blue or Hill Street Blues. They kind of went a little more risque. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
that's the truth though, right? Because you had to, HBO even, I brought them up, had to take a step and go, is there an audience? We know there's an audience for quality content, but is there an audience for more mature stories and mature quality content like there is for film? Is someone going to step in? Or if we make something like The Sopranos or The Wire, is
Or
there
Game of
going to be an
Thrones.
audience? Or Game of Thrones? Yeah. Game of Thrones especially, because that bridged, it's so interesting. Me and Hannah were even talking about this. This show has basically
Wait
a
a
lot
minute.
of,
Wait a minute. Are they brothers and sisters?
yeah, they went full,
Well,
they went
there's that.
full
Yeah, there's the
Alabama,
sex,
even though,
there's the violence, there's so much that they
yes.
addressed. And
And it's also fantasy, which is, to be honest, a bridge that's very hard to move, unless if you're Lord of the Rings, to a mainstream audience, because it's mostly, people like me that want to engage with fantasy stuff, right? So it's like, okay, well, how do I get my mom and dad to be interested in a show that has dragons and stuff in it? You know what I mean?
You never
They
gave
figured
us,
it out.
you never gave us a choice of whether or not we're watching it.
Right. Because I knew it was good. If I was, hey, listen, if I was there right now, you would have already seen all of The Last of Us, because I would be like, sit down, you're watching this. But I you know, there's like always going to be people that go, let's do this and innovate. And even the people that we talk about now, you could talk about Alex, right? Alex Hermosi. And you could see, like, you showed me his first couple of YouTube videos. You see where he is now. Obviously, that's progress of figuring out what works for him, the voice that he wants to speak in, how he wants to get his message across. And you can see that progression, but you can also see him pivot in multiple situations through that career, even in the last 2 years, going, this is what's next. This is not. People are already been doing this. We need to do something new. And I love that.
When you realize, I think a lot of people don't understand the joy is not only in the journey, but the joy is in the pursuit. And so when I thought of this, I the first thought that came to my mind, the first one that is downloaded and hit me, is that people maybe smarter than us actually wrote in a document that it was the pursuit of happiness.
Yep.
It doesn't say that you have the right to be happy. You have the right to pursue. So maybe this pursuit is something that you got to constantly be in. So
that's the thing, that boredom and stagnation is that. It's a lack of pursuit. It's a lack of being engaged, right?
And challenge.
And you have to.
A challenge. It's like
the mind wants to be challenged. It needs it. Yes.
I'm not interested in being bored. You know, and so it's pretty interesting when you keep doing something, whatever you're doing, right? And I know that the majority of people that watch this video still have to get across the path that they believe that they're worthy and can do something that other people did. But we all started out with our very first like, our very first view, our very first comment. And I was telling Matt and Craig today that I heard a stat, again, like Craig said, how do you know that? We got to be okay with our theme of our podcast there, is that if you have over 20 podcasts, if you put your head down and did 20 podcasts, you're in the top 1% of all podcasts that's ever been done. So whether that is one a month and it ended up being 20 months, or if it ended up being weeks and that was 20 weeks, that to think that people can have a consistency of understanding that nothing really worthwhile in life is an instant gratification return.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard because, like, when you've been trained for a while on instant gratification, right? You know, you think back to like these men and women that like sat in a warehouse and invented things that we all use nowadays, right? And how much persistence they had to have, and how much failure probably had to be part of that. That every single day they were thinking about the problem and how to solve it, because solving the problem was the only way they were going to get that dopamine, that feeling of success. And it was because there wasn't
the documentary on the BlackBerry.
The movie, the documentary. I know there's a movie.
It must be the movie.
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's really good.
Oh my God.
It's just called BlackBerry, by the way.
But the story, the movie that just came out about Nike, you know what I mean?
Air. Yeah, oh gosh, yes.
There again lies the hero journey and the excitement of the ups and down roller coasters of actually what the journey is, what exactly is happening with the journey. And so I guess that's for a select group of people. I'm starting to realize more now than ever that, of course, everyone believes they should be at a different plateau or they could have did more. We always can look at the dots and look backwards. And the one thing that I tell people to do is not beat up themselves. And so You know, a thing like patience is not a label of a one thing deal. Patience is you being aware that it's worth the wait.
Yeah, you have to delay that
sad.
gratification. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I, you know, like it's you have to. There's a certain type of person that's willing to like sleep on the floor, right, and eat ramen
Oh,
noodles
gosh.
to accomplish a goal or whatever it may be, or be homeless, or to do all these things. And you see these certain people, Dad, of course you're one of those people, but like to put yourself in certain positions that are extremely uncomfortable because you know that the outcome at the end will be worth it.
Well,
It's very
I'm daydreaming all day, all day. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So, you know, if people wanted to know another video that I know that I'm going to do when we think about videos to do
Mhm.
is I really understand that a majority of the people on the planet are, why in the hell would you do what you're doing? So when I was talking about my family wanted to do an intervention for me, it is, there's no way they could understand the journey that I was on and the pursuit of what I was doing,
Mhm.
because they had just made a decision, which I have to say is probably right for them.
At that time.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if they'd rather be comfortable and rather be complacent, or even in their own mind think they're just doing this much better than the Joneses. You see what I mean? It's like the world needs those people. The world doesn't need a bunch of people going for something that's untangible. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm just going to try to reinvent and change the world. And it's like a lot of people go, well, how much are you going to pay me to help you?
Well, there's a whole group of
Yeah.
the world too that's like, well, I like it where it is, or I want it to be back the way it was. So like
Yeah.
you
We're
also
hearing
have
that now, exactly,
a,
with the
a
way that
large
people
group of people.
reflect. Yeah, they
Yes, because it is different. When people, you know, I saw a thing today where they were saying the health of adult men ages 40, 50, and 60. So if you're 40, your body nowadays is like a 30-year-old's body 50 years ago. And they've said basically all ages go back 10 years. Because
Mhm.
before, men used to beat the shit out of their bodies on a daily basis,
Oh my
working in
God.
mines, working on the farm, doing all these
Oh,
things. And
absolutely,
this
yes.
made 40 and 50 and 60 miserable, or inhaling fumes, or doing
Plus,
whatever,
plus there
right?
wasn't, like you just said, Matt, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's
There
okay.
wasn't a group of people called OSHA.
No, to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it was not only that these people did things that was very difficult and hard to do, but they did it with equipment that you only get to make one mistake and you're dead,
Yeah.
or one mistake
Uh-huh.
and you have no fingers, or one mistake and your leg's gone. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, a group of people had to step in and say, "Hey, listen, you got to make this stuff a little more safe." But then sometimes I think that the Darwin theory still is available there.
Oh yeah. Always.
Yes.
Always. Yeah. Well, I
Just
think
watch a video, a short where you have people crashing or doing stuff, slipping on something that is quite obvious. A sign that says, "Be careful where you walk," and they don't look down, they're running, and
I've seen
But,
seen so many of those.
oh my God, my wife Terry, just
If someone slips and falls,
if she
including
could just
us.
watch people flip and fall all day, that would be
Yeah.
her day. And every hour there's got to be someone that falls and also farts, and then
Something like that.
her day is complete.
just sit there and watch all the shorts that are out there and reels. I mean,
He
people have
does.
actually
But that's
compiled
it though.
like 20 different little
But you
bits
see,
within 1
believe it or-
minute or a minute and a half, and it's all stuff that we
What's
kind of
so
laugh
interesting
at.
about that, Craig, is people make full-time incomes doing exactly that
Exactly.
nowadays.
Yeah.
They're like making these compilations with AI, like taking a bunch of clips from many different compilation videos, making their own compilation, uploading it and gaining a bunch of subscribers, and then doing ad share and ad revenue on that. You know, like that. It may be a saturated market at this point, but it still is one. And that's going back to the innovative thing, right? Is it's like, okay,
They were able to figure out a way to do it, and they
Right.
took that chance and they took that path to do it. Now that they've reached it and it works, what's next?
Well, that's the thing, is that I always feel a little uncomfortable whenever I put myself in a position where I'm not controlling my own destiny. So it's like, us making content means that we control our own destiny. Using
Mhm.
other people's content, then you're in this slippery slope of like, they could change one rule and your whole income's gone, right? Like, so it's something that's happened before and probably will happen even more so when AI exists more. So it can like look at the video and go,
many of
this
the
clip
social
from here,
media
this,
has
right,
changed because of that.
yeah. Well, it's like
not giving away the ending to the BlackBerry, but
Mhm.
we already know what the ending is.
Right.
All three of us are not holding one in our hand.
No.
Nope.
And
And
yet, for whatever reason,
go out
there's
to visit-
BlackBerry headquarters over there.
Yeah,
I don't
go
know
out
what
to
the
visit Matt and Hannah, and we're having a dessert at Cheesecake Factory, right?
yeah, in the Irvine Spectrum.
Yeah, and we're sitting outside, and we look up. There's a giant skyscraper there that has BlackBerry on it.
I still don't understand what it is that's allowing that to stay there, because how
I
many of us
believe-
have Blackberries?
Listen, I
Okay.
believe that if someone really did their research, I bet you BlackBerry's worth more today than it was during that story, and it's probably everything that they're selling now has to do with a governmental contract.
Yeah, you
Okay.
pivot like IBM did. Like IBM wasn't going to compete with Apple and Microsoft for computers. They just were aware of that. So they just pivoted into government contracts and making the government version of that. So like, well, all we have to do is focus now on security, because these two other platforms lack that, right? And the more popular they get, the less secure they get, because more people want to figure out how to break it. And so it helps the government. And if you watch, I mean, God, you watch certain things with the government and they're running on such old technology, and that's completely because it's made by either Microsoft specifically for them, or IBM, or BlackBerry, and it's unhackable because there's just such a niche for it. You'd have to be like another government that owns these things to figure it out, because it's not like they're widely available. They're being made specific. So it's like,
I love that.
Imagine you steal a car.
I love that we're on the internet, and I just went and put BlackBerry revenue for 2023. Yeah. They only did $831 million.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Okay, so obviously beyond the cell phone,
that's almost as much as the Stanley Cup. No, just kidding.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy, huh? They're gonna be getting Terrence Riley afterwards. They'll be like, hey. But no, I mean, you're gonna see like with what happened with Apple and the smartphone and BlackBerry, you're gonna see that whole transition happen again.
Oh yeah,
because we're in that bridge between what you would call like your daily driver pieces of technology. That's going to shift over the next 5 years, because I think we're gonna have a mixture of like two devices. It'll probably be a pair of glasses, which is like augmented reality. And then it'll be some form of device with a camera, if it's not the glasses completely, that has artificial intelligence in it that kind of just runs everything.
Got it.
Because I think one of the big problems right now with wireless glasses is it's like, how do you fit all that technology into it and then make it still light that anyone, or cool that anyone would wear it? And that's where Apple's kind of, the Vision Pro shit is just the beginning. That's like them going, beta test our technology for us that we're going to put in glasses eventually and you're all going to wear. And they're aware that that's where it's going. That's why Tim Cook has even said stuff like, this is my iPhone. Like the Vision line is my iPhone. And it's like, this is called the Vision Pro, but there eventually will be a pair of Vision sunglasses. And they'll probably work with Ray-Ban and Zeiss and all these big ones like Meta to make styles. And then we'll all wear them and they'll all be attached to the devices that we have of Apple already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our heart monitors are all different kinds of things. I've already seen like those Aura rings and stuff. It's funny that they're called Aura, but yeah, there's like a lot of smart device companies are coming out now even to replace smartwatches, because there's like, there's going to be a certain point where I feel like people won't want to wear that either. Like the technology will have to be so small and it'll all connect to one main piece of technology, but they'll all talk. So it's like, okay, I have a small little device like my iPhone that has a camera in it that I have in my pocket, and then that's it. But these and this and this and this all talk to this.
What if you wore a dress with no pockets?
Well, they'll clip on.
Then you have the Aura ring or a necklace.
No, what's funny about technology is the more that it gets adapted, the more you'll see clothes with pockets specifically for that.
Or
right?
It's the outfit itself. I think I've seen some people come up with that as well, where the outfit will.
So the people with pocket protectors, they're like, I knew this was coming. I knew
the geeks of the past are the people that are with the present.
Well, you know,
I've been waiting for this.
Style comes full circle, right? Like me and Hannah were in the mall the other day, not too long ago, and we were walking through, and these emo kids walked out of Hot Topic, and we're like, good on you, emo kids, because that's who we grew up with, and we're kind of the way, right? Like the My Chemical Romance and the Green Day and the long hair and the skater boy look and everything. I was that way. So and Hannah too. So it's like, it's interesting to see trends that we were as teenagers and kids come back, and people start dressing that way again and I know you guys have probably experienced this with our generation, even where it's like, oh my God, the 80s was so cool. The 70s were so cool. Hey, like, let's bring those hairstyles
Robert, when
back.
are we going to see the bell bottoms again, right?
Yeah. You took that thought out of my head.
Hannah has a pair.
Hey, Craig, have you personally made any tie-dye stuff?
Okay, personally, no. Have I worn it? Yes.
I made tie-dye shirts.
We were in Michael's the other day, and we were looking for like some arts and crafts stuff to do, and Hannah's like, do you want to tie-dye some shirts? And both of us were like, the process that you'd have to go through to do that.
Oh yeah.
Looking for something that's a little low maintenance. And it's funny because
nowadays, you know, you just roll them up, you spin them up and put rubber bands on them, and you put plastic parts over other parts to dye different colors. So, I got it all now. But it's on YouTube, I'm sure. So,
of course.
Right.
Remember, Matt and Hannah and Terry and I were walking, and this guy went by with a tie-dye Nike pants and hoodie,
like the whole suit, like a tracksuit almost.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching a video, I mean, this is technically tie-dye too,
right?
Exactly.
And so as he walked by, his girlfriend or his wife said he made this.
Yeah, my mom always she compliments people in public, and that's something she's done through my life. So she sees them, and we're all saying, damn, his look looks cool. So then she's just the one to go, your outfit is so cool. And then we got the response that you were sharing.
So his wife or girlfriend said he made this, and Terry's immediate response is Nike made that. And I said, no, Nike made a white one. He tie-dyed it. Oh, now
well, you know what, this shirt that I'm wearing, okay, it's a basic polo shirt. Somebody had the idea to do this. I have also a black one that is similar to this, and put it into a tie-dye. But I bought it at Nordstrom's. Okay, so not only is it something that could be made for $15.
How long ago was this?
This was a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah.
Well, it's like it fits into the same realm. Like if you're gonna do buy a tie-dye shirt, I think it fits in the same realm. Of course, is like
Craig just froze.
Well, it's like when you go into, I brought up Hot Topic, right? But you go into Hot Topic, and this is something that one of my favorite comedians, Bo Burnham, will joke about. But it's like you go into Hot Topic to buy an Anarchy shirt, right? You're like, Anarchy. You like buy it from Hot Topic and throw it on, and it's printed in China, and you're like, Anarchy, yes. You know what I mean? Like everything's been commercialized to a certain extent, even that stuff.
By the way, Craig, I like your shirt.
Thank you.
I do too. I do too.
I didn't want to get off topic talking about Hot Topic.
Well, we're
Which I'm surprised still exists, but you know.
I am too.
I-
And actually, by the way, I do enjoy going into Hot Topic just to look at the things.
Well, yeah, they got good band tees and stuff, right?
Exactly.
Like that's where you get your band tees, Hot Topic and Spencer's.
What's Banshee?
Band t-shirts.
tees, like a t-shirt with the Beatles on it, or a t-shirt
Yeah.
with Rolling Stones on it, like their logo or whatever. So, you know, like some people like to wear band t-shirts.
Vans.
Band,
No,
as
band,
in
B-A-N-D. Right.
like the Beatles.
I don't know. We just called them t-shirts.
Well,
Yes,
yeah.
they are t-shirts. Yes, but they're also band t-shirts. You know, here's a modern day word for it. Actually, it's merch. It's merch.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call it nowadays. So it's
Yeah,
like,
because they sell them at the concerts and everything like
Right.
that.
If you go to a Taylor
why do you have
Swift
to pay
concert-
$35 when you can go to a
Hot
store like Hot
Topic.
Topic and get it for maybe 20, 10, 15?
Ah, the discounted t-shirt.
yes, yeah, and they're normally, you know, if you're in public and you see someone in a Nirvana t-shirt, odds are they've been to Hot Topics or Spencer's. All right, that's where they got their Nirvana shirt. So, yeah.
Well, if people know me and they hear this podcast and go, you know, where is he? I just stay at home. I don't shop.
You're like
I've
Mark
never been-
Zuckerberg too. You're
I've
like
never
same
been
outfit
into
every
Hot
day.
Topics. I get my Tommy Bahama shirts online. It's
Mhm.
like there's really no need for me to leave.
Yeah, no, when you found like your outfit, and what's so cool about the Hawaiian shirt stuff is that they're every one of them so like crazy and unique.
Yeah.
That, you know, I make all the thumbnails, and it's so funny when I make a thumbnail and Dad, you reach out to me and you're going, whatever AI Hawaiian shirt you put on me today, that one looks great. Like I'd like to have that one.
I love all my Hawaiian shirts. It's
Right.
when I first wore a tie, because
Well, I
I
hate
just told
ties.
myself
Yeah.
I would never ever wear a suit. Never ever wear a suit. And so when I got ties, I had to find the most colorful ties. And
Mhm.
people would ask me all the time, it's like, golly, do those require batteries? You know what I mean? But
Guilty.
the ties were so crazy. And my response always was honesty. And no one believed me. And here's my honest statement when people would see my shirt or my tie. I would go, yeah, it matches everything I wear. Because I don't have that gene.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have that gene. So I started buying clothes that were so out there that no one expected them to match anything. And so it wasn't a thought that I needed to know that if I wore this and this, it doesn't match if I go out in public.
Well, I mean, when you speak
Right.
on stage or something, right? Like it goes to show even the whole like topic that we're kind of talking about, which feels like change and like moving forward, right? And being open to change. It's like, okay, every single person normally that you saw speak on stage was wearing a suit with like a nice watch, all this jewelry, right? Because it's like
shoes.
alligator, right? Exactly. And so here you come with Tommy Bahama shirts and shorts and
My
not flip flops,
my Jesus
right?
sandals.
Yeah.
Exactly, which could be Crocs nowadays, you know. But that aspect of it, I think, just goes to show that it's like, okay, just exactly what you said. This is where I feel comfortable. This is how I want to be as a person. So I'm just going to do that, regardless of the norms that already exist, because
Mhm.
there's a certain aspect to those norms where it's like, if they're making you into a person that you're not, if they're making you uncomfortable, like sometimes people say you have to wear the things of the person you want to be, or be in the skin of someone that you want to become, right? Like think like they do.
Yeah, don't be an individual.
Right. But I watched a
Yeah.
clip the other day that I shared with these guys of Prince shredding on the guitar. I admire Prince, but
yes.
I'm not going to dress like Prince. I can't pull that off.
Right.
I don't want to try, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I can respect how innovative and good he was, you know, at fashion and all these other things. But
Yeah, I actually remembered. I know exactly who it was because that was the first guy I ever seen on stage wearing a flowered shirt, and that was Don Fela. And And Don Falis said, and he came out right away and he says, first of all, I want to say what everyone's thinking. Yes, I'm overweight and I've made millions of dollars selling nutritional products. He says it just goes to show that the person that sells the most nutritional products sometimes doesn't have to use them. And he said, secondly, someone told me that wait till you make enough money where you don't care what other people think about the way you look or what you wear.
Right.
And we all know the haters, right? The cynics are right, but the optimist is the person that's happy and fulfilled and rich, right? So I remember hearing the statement every time Bill Gates or Steve Jobs was on stage. And it was like, these people have no social skills. Can someone tell him that he can wear something different? And can he get a fucking haircut? And
I'm like, someone that knows how to cut hair, you know?
Okay, so these two people at the time in the business world are fighting each other to see who's going to be the wealthiest person. And the number one thought you have is they need to cut their hair. Yeah, you're focused on the right
personality
shit.
change. You know what I mean? Our personality difference. There's certain people that, and going back to what we started this podcast with, which is like the circumstances that you're in shape your reality and how you perceive things, right? Massively. Right. So if you came from a family, and we've even had people part of the inner circle that have felt this way, but it's like, if you come from a family that idolizes materialism or idolizes the way that you look or idolizes these things, it's going to be very hard for you to break those habits and patterns and go, that's not who I want to be. Right. I don't want to, you know, I've seen many, many people where it's like, okay, my house is completely clean because my mom always kept her house clean and then her mom always kept her house clean. So that's just the way it always is. And you see people get, you see people get stressed because it's so not them to match that level of cleanliness. Cause you know, maybe their mom was a little crazy with that type of stuff. And it's like, but that's the case, right? Like we continue to bring these things with us based off of our perspective of the way that we see. And it's like one of the best things that you can do. And I'm still doing this in my life, even though I did have a great upbringing, trying to get rid of the parts that are not me, like not so much me, and the parts that are, find the parts that are me, because I'm like the only dude out of the whole group of my brothers and in our family that's into the things that I'm into. Like I don't have a sibling that's that way. I don't have a grandparent or a parent that's into the same shit I am. And that's fine. But it took me a while to realize that that's something that I should accept about myself and that it's not weird, right? Because we always go, oh, well, what's the normal things to be into? What's the normal things to enjoy or to like? Like,
but see that, that's the way that actually things should be. I mean, family gave us the foundation, right?
Yes.
Robert, you gave Matt the foundation. You told him, do this, don't do that. You know what, don't touch the stove when it's hot, that kind of stuff.
That was my mom that told me that.
Okay, then Terry, thank you.
I'm kidding.
But, and then from there, as you develop your personality, then you start thinking, okay, I like this, I don't like that, but okay, so my brother likes this and I don't like this. It's like, okay, you have the foundation, you're a unique individual. Your uniqueness has said, okay, Matt, I'm going to point you in this direction. How do you respond? And it's interesting. It's all about that. Right. I mean, we can always look back and say, we can always look back and say, why didn't we do it this way? Well, that's fine. You can say that, but that's not where you are today. Today, you are the sum of what you've experienced from day one and how you move forward because of all of the interactions in life that you've experienced. That's where you're going to go. So how do you move to the next level?
Well, also too, like, absolutely, Craig, when Dad, you're saying like the conversations you've had with my younger brother and me and stuff as we've gotten older, it's so interesting because that view that you have, Dad, of the world because of your perspective and the things that you've been through. I think that's one of the struggles we've always had, because me and Kyle have had such an opposite of that.
Yeah.
So if anything, if we're looking at something, if my dad goes, it needs to be done this way, and if you just stick at it and are consistent, me and Kyle, well, Kyle's maybe not this way. Maybe it's just me. I should be speaking for myself. I go, how can I, like, that's too monotonous. How can you even do that? How can you have such drive and such energy for doing this? Like, I'll try to, that's why network marketing or any of those things, I've always had kind of like a, it's been difficult for me, because I'm one of those person that's like trying to re-innovate on something that has worked so well the way that it's been. And my dad knows how well it works and has taught many people to do it. But on my hand, coming in, having a different upbringing and stuff, and always being told, well, how could you innovate? How could you go at this problem differently? And I just always come from that mindset. So it's different for me to do the things people have already done. I'm more like, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and that's what differentiates, in a sense, you from Kyle and from Darcy, because each were raised at a different period of time. Now, yes, Robert and Terry
and I was a different guy.
Thank you. That's where I was going. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when Darcy was born, you and your previous wife were in a different situation. And that's why he is different from Matt, who is different from Kyle, because each time period that they came up, or look at it as just a basic, when a child is born, the two parents are like frantic. They're trying to raise it. They didn't get their owner's manual. They're trying to figure out this, as you like to share, Robert. They try to figure out, okay, what can I do that's the best for my child based on what I know? So here comes child number 2. I think we got this a little bit better and we understand it more. So they're right there. Child 1 and child 2 are going to be different.
I mean, the first one's very well like a survival mentality.
What is that funny statement? Is that if you ask a family that has 3 or more kids, they have 1 million photos of the first child and no pictures of the last child?
Yeah. Or in my case,
it could be the opposite.
When I went, in my case, when I went through school, I was the brainiac. Fine, put it that way. I was the smart person.
You a bookworm?
Yeah, well, sort of. And so then my sister comes in, and what happens to her is everybody expects, because she's following me in the same school, my sister is expected to be who I am or like me. And she literally went to one of her teachers and she said, I am not Craig. Don't compare me to him. And it was like, ooh, that teacher backed way off and let my sister be herself. Come my little brother, who is totally different from us in the sense of he's not an A student. He is motivated by not books or history, but he's motivated by other things like art, like going out and being a skateboarder, like going out and enjoying punk rock. Would I be in that? No. But that's
a different generation. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
He looked at how fun you and your sister was and said, I don't know any of that.
Probably.
Well, like your upbringing, you're absolutely right. Is it like those decades too, not just in the parents?
That's trying to find our uniqueness. You
really can't raise any kid the same, from what I've understood, because you're gonna get, like, me and my brothers are so different. And me and Kyle are so different. We had the same identical upbringing. We're only 18 months apart, but we're so different.
Yeah.
And it's not like we both had different parents or a different upbringing. It was the same. The differences are the nature aspect of us, not the nurture part, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I think with the same information, we both went different directions with it. And what I mean? And
I've seen that one post that sort of blows me away that says, why is it when you're young, you're looking to be unique, and then once you graduate college, you want to be like everybody else?
Well, you learn at a certain point that fitting in is more important than your dreams, or more important than what you want. And because we're like so tribe mentality, it's in our genes, it's in our DNA, that it's very hard to go, it takes like a unique person to go against a crowd in a different direction. Right. And the internet's made this really easy because now there's a crowd for every direction. So you're always going to find a group of people that's like, hey, like the nerds at the table that go, hey, you can sit with us. Right.
You look like us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that now it's better, but at the same time, it's so easy to like take a step back from yourself and try to do what makes you fit in. And when you're growing up, especially teenage years, 20s, like now being 32, I look back at my 20s and I'm like, I was doing that a lot, because what I was trying to do is not only be like the fun, excited partying guy in certain aspects of my life, but then on other aspects of my life, I wanted to be like the smooth businessman that's like very professional and very put together. And I think it's like, like you said with your younger brother, I have so much of that aspect of me that's like, okay, I like to be a rebel. I don't like to be, I prefer that. Like if there's something that makes me a piece of art that makes me personally feel uncomfortable, I'm like, it'll normally make it to the top of my film list or whatever for the year, because I'm going, great, this movie made me feel something I'm not normally feeling. A lot of people avoid that type of stuff, but that's the way that I am. As where, I've shown my family pieces of art, including my younger brother, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand how you could, it's not that it's messed up or bad. It's just like, how is this connecting with you? And when you get older, you start to realize why, right? You start to realize after you go through your 20s and stuff. And I'd love for you guys to speak on this, but like, you start to realize the elements that are you and the elements that you enjoy for yourself. And you go, what a gift it is that I do get to enjoy this for myself.
Yeah. Well, my biggest take on that is when you start really, really searching for the thing that you feel is going to give you the most fulfillment in the moment that you're doing it. And that you're okay that when that's no longer feels like it's getting you to the direction that is keeping you in that pursuit of happiness, that you need to constantly be changing it when other people don't change at all and they just do nothing but complain about their existence, living in complacency and staying, in their comfort zone. And I see so many people, like that recent thing that we posted where LinkedIn did a survey of all their members, and 85% of people that are employed said that they want something different. They want something new. So I've always talked about the 30-30-30, 33 and a third kind of deal. And I think that we all agree when society is over 60% of whatever vote that you're leaning toward, that's the masses. Say that's the masses. So if everybody says that you should take a test, not getting political here, but you should take a test and go through certain licensing, the difference between driving a motorcycle or a car or a semi-truck hauling explosives. They all got different licensing. So why can't we do that for firearms?
Oh gosh, yes.
So when you bring that up, we're not saying that you can't buy that kind of artillery, but maybe you need to go through 40 hours of training and you got to pass a certain test to get a certain license to carry that kind of artillery. You know what I mean? So when you see people stealing vehicles, you see them stealing cars. You don't see them stealing semis. Because it might take this a little more skill to understand how to drive that. Now, between the semi and the car is a U-Haul truck. That's a box on a car.
Right. I was going to say, if you don't want your car to be stolen in the modern day by young people, just get a clutch and then no one will be able to move that car.
Yeah. So my point is very, very simple, is that, that just always understand that when you're trying to pursue happiness, fame, success, fortune, whatever you're trying to pursue, I feel as long as you're pursuing that and the thing that you're doing gives joy to other people, gives fulfillment and good feeling to other people, I don't see how you can be on the wrong track in doing that. I just really don't. And so no one wants to do the pursuit of happiness because that's where it's uncontrolled. That's when you don't know what's happening. That's when you can't explain your journey to anybody else because they can't see your vision. And it's like, I would rather consistently be in the pursuit of something better than what I have and be so uncomfortable and so uncertain, constantly stepping into a place where I'm challenging who I am and what I'm being.
Mhm.
I'd rather die continuing doing that for the rest of my life. And I'm not judgmental on people that say, that's not for me. See, I used to be the kind of individual that if you didn't understand motorsports, I was put on this planet to not only tell you how ignorant and stupid you were, but to also convince you that motorsports is something that you need to be part of.
Isn't that
Yep.
funny? Because you
That's
share
my
that.
juvenile. That's my
I did
juvenile.
the same thing.
That's my juvenile part of me. And then all of a sudden, when you realize how few people actually enjoy that one thing, then all of a sudden you got to find other things that you also want to enjoy.
Yeah, you have to learn how to like validate yourself for the things you love.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's the case. Like exactly what you were saying with the motorsports. Like I had that with film, right? Like I would bring these
Right.
movies to my family and go, this like really rocked my world. It was great. I even went through a period of really being into like anime movies and stuff like that, like Akira and these certain films from Miyazaki and stuff, which are really, they're good, they're great. But I would show them and then my family would be like, what the hell is this? Right? Like, why are we watching this or whatever?
Like
And
it's
District
just
9.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Academy recognized District 9 with nominations.
Yes.
There's going to be people. There's going to be people 10 years from now that are going to be talking about all our podcasts, and they go, "Man, did you notice they just can't get off the District 9 thing?"
I think it's funny though because I'm a huge fan of inside jokes, and it's been an inside joke in our family. So why not the podcast?
Yeah.
There we go.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows that all three of us like talking to the audience that sees this video. Try to push in on your uniqueness, and really try to discover. It's sad in the days that we're in that there's so much conformity and so much complacency, and again, so much learned hopelessness that you got to understand that you find what you love in life in the short season that you find it in, because you figure out things that you don't want to do. And no one wants to do that. So no one wants to sit around and admit to somebody, I took guitar lessons. I don't know if you guys know this, but I quit.
Been there.
And it's like I set out to be a professional race car driver, and I found reasons that it just wasn't going to happen for me,
Mhm.
And so we constantly go through these things, going into things that we think is our pursuit to happiness, but we're not willing to stay in the uncomfortable zone long enough to actually get above average in it, which above average is a word called extraordinary. And I bring this up all the time because every human being on the planet experiences this on a daily basis, and they just cast it aside. And so whether you're watching news, whether you're watching TV shows, whether you're listening to music, you're consistently seeing people that did something longer than the average person to become extraordinary. And that's why you're watching them. That's why you're listening to them. So when you start thinking that virtually other than your sleep time, which a lot of us also dream, But we're constantly watching people that said, you know what? I'm just going to get a little better at this than everybody else.
You always say master the mundane, Robert.
Right. And one of the people that I know that Craig knows is the guy that had the tagline, "See you on the radio."
Oh, Charles Osgood.
Yeah. So he just passed away.
I know. Oh,
And
wow.
when you hear all the people that worked with him, oh my God, do you understand how extraordinary that dude is? He was President Lyndon's DJ.
Lyndon Johnson,
Yeah, Lyndon Johnson's DJ.
LBJ. Yeah.
No, I didn't know the DJ went back that far. They showed all the different people and the different things that he did, from being a part of an orchestra to actually singing, to being on the radio, to being on the TV, to doing all of these things. And they said that the thing that they loved most about him was he always involved everybody and he always did something different. They said if there's anything that he did, he would come up with creative ideas that everyone was scared to do.
Mm.
And so they go, here's the perfect example of what he's known for. And it showed him at the Indianapolis 500. And he's going, the great American race is coming. And he goes, you know, driving one of these cars is like being a pilot. Most of the time, you've made yourself so good at flying so fast and knowing, and he pauses a little bit, and a car was just coming around the corner. He timed it. And all of a sudden it's like, and he says, and all of a sudden, but you're always on the edge of tragedy.
That's good timing.
Yeah.
That
And
is.
so they were saying that he timed how long it took for the car to go around the track. He knew what he wanted to say in the limited time that they were going to put him on. And he came on live and had that effect. And everybody just went, oh my God. They said if that was done today, that would be a viral video overnight.
Oh,
There's
yes.
that one, I don't know if you guys have seen, similarly, there's that one best live shot ever video where it's this one interviewer and he's walking through this field of rockets, and then he keeps walking and he's talking about, like, you'd have to pull it up, but he's talking about space shuttles launching off. And then he gets all the way out into this field and he's like this, and then a space shuttle is launching off at that
I just
exact
saw
time.
that. Yes.
And
Oh,
you're
wow.
like, getting that timing specific with what he was saying.
And he said exactly what Robert,
Right.
you just shared. He knew when exactly things were going to happen, and he planned it out. Like he started his thing about like T-1 minute.
Yeah.
Right.
But to point and have it happen exactly at that moment
Yeah.
is similar when you see certain comedians or certain performance artists or people that do stage work, right? Like hitting your lines every single time at the right time, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Having a consistency with that it's hard to do. It's not easy. And doing that live is always going to be harder. So,
But it's all the times that you did it and it didn't work where you start trusting yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, that flow state where
constantly-
you just trust.
Yeah,
right.
you constantly put yourself in situations that other people don't. So then when all of a sudden you pull off the extraordinary, everyone's in awe.
Yeah, right.
So when we see, you know, because football is so popular right now, because of the playoffs, you know, getting on the highlight reel of doing some crazy pass or some crazy run or some one-handed catch.
Mhm.
And everybody's, oh my God, did you see that? And they do not understand how long that individual's been doing it uncomfortably.
Yeah.
How many
times they fall.
How many passes were missed? How many just barely reaching where we all go, you know, and there's still a big group of people. So you guys get this. There's still a whole group of people right now that are on the internet saying that the NFL is structured. that
Oh,
it's all
fixed?
like wrestling, and that they actually know the
Wrestling's
plays.
fake? No, I'm just kidding. Next thing you're gonna say is Santa Claus didn't bring my gifts. I don't know.
Hey,
what the hell.
The
Quiet.
only
We don't
reason
want
I
to get
know
that
that,
out.
no, I just heard from Hulk Hogan and John Cena. They told me that it was fake. So
The Rock.
Yeah. Even though now The Rock is going to be part owner of WWE.
And it's gonna be on Netflix.
Yeah.
Crazy.
get out of here!
I know,
Really?
it
Yeah,
was
they're
just
doing-
announced recently. Yeah.
All of the lives
He's
are now
being
on
brought
Netflix.
into the mainstream of whatever the World Wrestling is, or whatever that is now called. He's being brought into that.
Mhm.
Never mind,
Right.
he also has now his football league that is coming out, the UFL, which
I didn't
is
even know about
combining
that.
the XFL, which was McMahon's version of NFL, the World Wrestling Federation, and the USFL. So here's now a spring league that The Rock is putting everything together. He's bringing the leagues together, and now it's called UFL.
But who's running the one with the women?
What
There's-
one with the women?
Oh yeah, there's a football league with women, and they wear nightwear.
Oh, that one.
Lingerie?
The lingerie games.
Never heard the word nightwear before.
Yeah, that's how up and cool I am.
Yeah, that's funny.
Everyone thinks of nightwear, and they immediately think, "Oh, the onesies made out of flannel."
Right. Exactly.
Oh, now that would be a great uniform for a team.
Right.
Oh my god. Well, I feel like we're done. I enjoyed it, Matt, Craig.
Yeah,
always
this was
enjoy it.
great.
Yes.
And I hope you listeners got something out of this. Never forget that, you just got to be able to just do what you really truly want to do. In the end, I don't want to be morbid, but at the end, we all die. We don't get out. We don't get out of this. We
Get out
die.
alive, right?
Yeah.
And when we die, there's going to be a few people that are going to miss us and be there. And then unfortunately, they got to get on with their lives. And so, when you really, really think about it, we all know that the Queen just recently died. When's the last time you thought of her? Okay, so because I just brought it up.
No, I love the one with Betty White too. Is it's like,
Yeah.
Betty White passed away, and everybody, anytime you talk about her, people would be like, she's still alive, and it's like, it's insane that she's not here anymore. But
Right.
at the same time, it's like, okay, you can do so much in life, and I think it's so important to do what you want on top of that always. Like, it's especially in today's day and age. Like, I think there's really no rhyme or reason or point to all of this.
Right.
Unless if you make one, you have to make your purpose, and you have to defend that purpose and that dream. And I think no matter what direction that's in, if you want to hop off at some point and get another car and go in a different direction, that is totally fine and something that everybody should be comfortable with doing. I think the more we talk about this stuff, Dad and Craig, the more we normalize it and share like our ups and downs,
Right.
the more other people do that. I've seen that as well. And I think there's this huge surge now of people going like, all right, and I think that's why you see a lot of the workforce like stopping too, because it's like, all right, I'm kind of not going to build someone else's dream anymore if I don't get to even be a part of it. If you're disposable in some way.
What about me?
It's like the opposite of the too big to fail movement.
Yeah.
Where everyone was pissed off that, wow, no one went to jail for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID hit, and it didn't destroy us.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. There's people that are in the wealthiest people on the planet, and they still made more money in 20 and 21 and 22, and then for 23. Yeah, the people that are rich made more money. Yeah, they did. And so my thing has always been, I can bitch and complain about those people, or I can find out what the hell they're doing. I don't need to be the wealthiest person in the world. I don't need to be. I just think that if I consistently do stuff that I love and the help of giving wisdom to other people so that they can change and feel in control of where they're going to become fulfilled and happy, then maybe one day I'll end up on top. But I don't have to, because the pursuit wasn't that position or the money. It was the
Right.
pursuit of how much of an impact you can make on people's lives while you're still alive.
I
I
love
think
your
that's a
saying,
good.
Robert, that you posted today. What we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others and the world remains immortal.
It's very true.
That's the deal.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was amazing. I hope
love it.
everybody liked it and everyone enjoyed it. Craig, would you go ahead and close this out like always?
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. You can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. You can also follow him on YouTube at roberthollis.com/YouTube, on Instagram at instagram.com/official Robert Hollis, and on TikTok at tiktok.com/at real Robert Hollis. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and share it with others. It will help us grow our community and reach those with ears to hear. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, please share it as well. Thank you, and shout out to our executive producer and visionary, Matt Hollis. Bless you, my friend. Thank you so much. And of course, Robert, wow. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for joining us today. Until next time, please be good to yourselves, be cash, and bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. See you
Thank
next
you,
time.
everybody.